Hello and Merry Christmas, everyone. It's this exploring session. We're continuing our work on the End Town sequence, and we are approaching Christmas any time now, as you can tell. I think sure we're all feeling very Christmassy round our trees at the moment. We are looking at End Town plays 14, 15, and 16 today. Hopefully, I said we were getting to play 14 last time. We never did. Never happened. So we're doing play 14, known as The Trial of Mary and Joseph. Other titles may be available. I'm not 100% certain how later editorially those are added. And we're going to go into the nativity sequence, or at least half of it. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to get rid of that because I'm going to get very, very hot. So to work our way through these three plays, we have this team of excited peoples. So reading today, Mary. Reading today, Mary is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian, and my reaction to Christmas is bah humbug.
Presumably all the bars are closed. And reading today, the first Doctor and Joseph is...
Hello, I'm Dan. I'm an actor in Montpellier, France.
And reading Episcobus, Salome, and third pastor today is...
Hello, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer, and director, and I love Christmas.
Isn't it lovely? Tamara is reading Second Doctor. Tell us who you are, Tamara, because I didn't just say your name at all.
Yes, I am Tamara. Thank you for reminding me. I'm an actress, and I'm in Germany, which is Christmas Central, and I don't like it.
Reading second Detractor, Cives, and second pastor today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, otherwise known as Ebenezer, based in Suffolk.
Reading first Detractor and an angel. Angel today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I will try to be as angelic as possible.
And reading Den, Zelomy, and first pastor today is...
Hi, my name is Lynn Freitas. I live in the Northwest United States, and I am in the pro-Christmas camp.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton, otherwise known as the Santa of early modern plays. That's who I am. I'm not known as that at all. I'm just going to walk away from this now very, very quickly. I just tried to, for the viewers at home, it isn't Christmas. We're recording this months in advance. This is literally, this is all a lie. It's all a lie.
Give it away. it's like Helen and the couch all over again.
Yes, don't worry, viewers at home, you have no idea what that reference means, and you don't want to know. You really don't. It's just going to lead to pain and disappointment. Just a note for this first play that we'll be reading, Joseph and the First Doctor are technically in the same play. They don't speak, hopefully, directly next to each other. I don't believe they do. So Dan may be having to do some vocal gymnastics as he goes from being Joseph and being a First Doctor. General notes before we begin, trigger warnings, there may be some unpleasant awkwardnesses going ahead. The further you go into any mystery play sequence, the greater the risk of anti-Semitism popping up, though in this case the questions of other things may pop up as well. We shall see as we go. But just it's always that slight risk. It's still early in the sequence, so probably less of a risk now than later on, shall we say. The closer you get to the crucifixion, the more potentially unpleasant things get. So we are, however, still very early on. Christ has not been born. We are on play 14, as it is labelled in the for our consumption of the End Town manuscript, which is a selection of various plays that have been put together, some from an original cycle, some not. We are, for today, all in the putative original cycle. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been editorial work or changes made to this script. The definition of where plays begin and end may have been filed away or added to. We do not know for absolute certain. But without further ado, we're going to ask the play to open with... Den.
Avoid, sirs, and let my lord the bishop come and sit in the court the laws to do. and I shall gone in this place them for to summon. Though that then in my book the court ye must come to. I warn you here all about that I summon you all the rout. Look ye fail for no doubt, and the court to peer. Both John Jordan and Geoffrey Guile, Malkin Mickledoke and Fair Maybill, Stephen Sturdy and Jack at the Stile, and Sauter Sadler, Tom Tinder and Beatrice Bell, Piers Potter and What at the Well, Sim Smallfaith and Kate Kell, and Bartholomew the Butcher, Kit Cakelear and Collet Crane, Gil Festeyes and Fair Jane, Paul Pewterer and Pernell Prain, and Philip the Good Fletcher, Cock Crane and Davy Drydust, Luce Lyre, Lettuce Little Trust, Miles the Miller and Call Crate Crust, both Betty the Baker and Robin Reed, and look ye ring well in your purse, for else your cause may speed the worse. Thou that ye sling God's curs, even at mine head, fast come away. Both Bouting the Bowser and Sibley Sling, Meg Merriweather and Sabin Spring, Tiffany Twinkleer, fail for nothing, the court shall be this day.
And we'll just pause there because that's one hell of an interesting little opening gambit. And if anyone's thinking they can hear the sound of money buckets rattling, that's a very reasonable assessment here. There's a certain amount of setting the crowd in order here, and called out for potentially real or made up names, or people out there being played upon here. What do we think about this as a sort of interesting opening gambit? Lynn, you had hell there, I should point out. We handed you hell. It's fine. Well done. How did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, the spelling is sort of modernized and sort of not. So that was a little challenging. But so, yeah, we're starting out kind of humorously with all these funny names. Jack at the Stile and somebody Little Faith, Lettice Little Trust, and Belle the Baker. So, I mean, it's these sort of comic imaginary characters that are part of the audience.
Yeah. Or fictionalized members of the audience, types you might find in an audience.
Yeah. A pewterer and a butcher and maybe a baker. So, tradespeople from the town. Maybe not actual individuals, but kind of types.
Ring well in your purse. There's going to be a collection later. Maybe not now, but there's definitely pay attention, people. Helen.
I don't see this the same way that you do at all, because I'm coming at it from a completely different angle. These are a typical bunch of people with with names that have been slightly changed to make them slightly more interesting, from any bishop's court. They're the plaintiffs, the defendants, the witnesses, the detractors, the defamers, the mothers, illegitimate children, the whole lot who would turn up in the court. And he's saying to them quite plainly, look, you ring well in your purse, or else your cause may speed the worse. You've got to spend a bit of money if you're coming to this court, because you're not going to get the verdict you want otherwise.
Yes, absolutely, but that doesn't mean it can't be both. It's a playful thing but it is within the context of the play. This isn't extra in exactly.
Yeah, it's just I come at everything from the wrong, a divergent view.
No, but I think it's important to make that clear that that's what that character is doing, even though they're addressing the audience. They're still semi within the play world in that sense.
Right.
Other thoughts, Dan?
There's a dramaturgical note I would like to make that's based on the manuscript, which I dropped a link in there to it. What's structurally interesting about it is normally every second and every fourth line and every first and every third line have the rhyming scheme here. And normally the way it's been structured in the manuscript from when we were reading last time, the End Town plays, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, the way that it's aligned. And there's brackets that are connecting where it rhymes. This is an interesting speech because the fourth line is actually set off to the right side each time. So at the court appear, and Sauter Satterley, and Philip the Good Fletcher. It is telling me that something is being played with here with that fourth line. It's adding, I would argue, to the comic sensibility of this character. Because yes, we know it's going to rhyme, but why is it being set off to the side versus the way it's been always structured, if not to emphasize it or just to, oh, by the way, oh, by the way, oh, by the way. It's telling me something about the rhythm just through the structure in the manuscript there.
Excellent. Other thoughts before we move on? Because we haven't really got very far. Okay, so we have the entrance of some detractors now to do a little bit of back and forth. So first and second detractor, please.
Sirs, God save you all. Here is a fair people in good faith. Good sirs, tell me what men me call. I trow ye not be this day, yet I walk wide and many way. But yet there I come, I do no good. To raise slander is all my lay. Backbiter is my brother of blood. Indeed he thought he ought come hither in all this day. Now would God that he were here, and be my truth. I dare well say that if we twain together appear, more slander we two shall rear. Within an hour thorwith this town? I'm not sure what the word that is. Throughout. Okay, that makes sense. Throughout this town. Than ever there was this 1,000 year, and else I shrew you both up and down. Now be my truth, I have a sight, even of my brother. Lo, where he is. Welcome, dear brother, my troth I plight. Your gentle mouth let me now kiss.
Gramercy, brother, so have I bliss. I'm full glad we met this day.
Right, so am I, brother. I wish much gladder than I can say. But yet, good brother, I you pray, tell all these people what is your name. For if they knew it, my life I lay, they will you worship and speak great fame.
I am Backbiter, that spilleth all game, both kid and known in many a place.
Be my troth, I said the same, and yet some say thou should have evil grace.
Hark, Ritthaler, dear, can thou out tell of any new thing that wrought was late?
Within a short while a thing befell. I trow thou wilt laugh right well thereat, for betroth right meckle hate. If it be waste, thereof it will grow.
If I may raise therewith debate, I shall not spare thee said to so.
Sir, in the temple a maid there was, called Maid Mary, the truth to tell. She seemed so holy within that place. Men said she was fed with holy angel. She made a vow with man never to mell, but to live chaste and clean virgin. However it be, her womb doth swell, and is as great as thine or mine.
Yeah, that old shrew Joseph, my troth I plight, was so enamoured upon that maid, that of her beauty when he had sight, he stayed not till he had her assayed.
Nay, well worth she hath him paid. Some fresh young gown she loveth more than his legs to her hath laid, and that doth grieve the old man sore.
By my truth, all what may well be, for fresh and fair she is to sight, and such a morsel, as seemeth me, would cause a young man to have delight.
Such a young damsel of beauty bright, and of shape so comely so. Of her tail oft time be light, and right tickle under thee too.
That old cuckold was evil beguiled to that fresh wench when he was wed. Now must he father another man's child, and with his swink he shall be fed.
A young man may do more cheer in bed to a young wench than may an old. This is the cause such law is led, that many a man is cuckold.
And there we'll briefly pause. We got lots of interesting bits of information out there. I hadn't modernized the second name. So we've got Backbiter and we've also got Raise Slander there. So we got two, and it's here where we're sort of, when we start having trouble with questions about genre, this is very morality play territory kind of things here. We've got two semi-allegorically kind figures who are, plotting and talking bad things here. And yeah, they're saying some really, really nasty things about Mary and Joseph. The rumor mill has clearly been working overtime with these two about her. She's been this holy maid, with holy angel. Yeah, she's got quite large recently with a child, so that's it's a bit odd. It's a bit odd, people. Thoughts on the room, Lynn.
I'm not even a believer, and the way these two are talking about, oh, how hot the Mother of God is kind of creeping me out.
Yep.
It's like, ew. It's like, yeah.
I mean, clearly, obviously, the play wants us to think that they are you, and they've gone all out. Tamara.
Well, I just wanted to say, also considering her age at this point,
Which would have been like 14, 15.
Mhm. Tiny bit creepy.
Yeah.
Marriageable age at that time.
No, it might be marriageable, but it's not necessarily childbearing. Helen, you're muted at the moment.
Sorry about that. I keep sneezing, so I'm. How do you catch a cold during lockdown? That's what
I've been
want to know.
wondering that myself. I've got a cold too. It's infuriating.
Anyway, what I liked was the two detractors are obviously people, men who look as if they're heavily pregnant. You know the sort of belly I'm talking about. They say her womb doth swell and is as great as thine or mine. So you've got these two. One isn't allowed to say to men like that, when are you going to? When's it due? But I always feel like it. Shouldn't.
Well, yeah. Other thoughts in the room about these two quite appalling creatures? I mean, they're very well portrayed as appalling creatures. I mean, it's very, very visceral. There is a part of me just sort of going, but this is the kind of gossip that you might get. I mean, it's not to say that this is the nicer part of human nature, but this is addressing a question that people have about the whole concept of virgin birth, etc. So the fact that this play is addressing this is really interesting. And a lot of mystery plays that we've come across seem to be addressing doubts that people might have and actually addressing them head on in ways that we find a bit surprising. Helen.
One of the things that Marlowe was accused of was saying that Joseph was cuckolded by the Holy Ghost.
And and that's entirely what this play seems to. Well, I mean, suggesting that he wasn't cuckolded by the Holy Ghost, that he is indeed he couldn't keep his hands off her, is basically what they're saying, because she's so thwor, I think is the technical term for what they're saying. Okay, before we get too creeped out, any additional thoughts before we move forward?
And we're only on page 3.
Yeah, we're quite early on. Dan.
Oh, sorry. Just interesting also that they are being called first detractor and second detractor, even though they have names.
Yeah.
There, so as to characterize them as such.
So so they have their function as well as their name in the manuscript itself. So we then get a stage direction, which is, broadly speaking, we get the Episcobus, the judge. I think it comes in with two lawyers. You can never, find them without, I'm sure. So a court is being assembled, broadly speaking, in terms of the dramaturgy. Anyone wants to say any more detail about that particular stage direction, please do, because that's what I got out of it. Yes, so court is in session, I think is what's going on here, but I could be wrong. Let's find some more evidence. Episcobus first, please.
Hark ye, fellows, why speak ye such shame of that good virgin, fair maid Mary? Ye be accursed, so her for to defame. She that is of life so good and holy, of her to speak such villainy, ye make mine heart full heavy of mood. I charge you, cease of your false cry, for she is sib of mine own blood.
Sib of thy kin thou that she be, or great with child her womb doth swell. Do call her hither, thyself shall see that is the truth that I thee tell.
Sir, for your sake, I shall keep counsel you for to grieve. I am right loath. But sirs, list what saith the bout our fair maid now with great with child goth.
Take good heed, sirs, what ye doth say. Advise you well what ye present. If this be found false another day, full sore yet shall your tale repent.
Sir, the maid forsooth is good and gent, both comely and gay and a fair wench, and featly with help she can consent to set a cuckold on the high bench.
Ye be too busy of your language. I hope to God you false to prove. It were great ruth she should so outrage, or with such sin to mischief.
This evil tallies, my heart doth grieve of her, to hear such foul dalliance. If she be founded in such reprieve, she shall so rue her governance. Sim somnor, in haste, wend thou thy way. But Joseph and his wife be name at the court to appear this day. Hear him to purge of her defame. Say that I hear of him great shame, and that doth me great heaviness. If they be clean without and blame, let him come hither and show witness.
Already, sir, I shall him call here at your court for to appear. And if I may him meet withal, I hope right soon they shall bane hear. Away, sirs, let me come near. A man of worship here cometh to place. Of courtesy me seemeth ye be to leer. Do of your hoods with an evil grace. Do me some worship before my face, or by my troth I shall you make, if that I roll you up in my race. For fear I shall do your arse quake. And yet some mead, and ye me take. I will withdraw my great rough toth. Gold or silver I will not forsake, but even as all summoners doth. Ah, Joseph, good day with thy fair spouse. My lord, the bishop hath for you sent. It is him told that in thine house a cuckold's bow is each night bent. He that shet the bolt is like to be shent. Fair maid, that tale ye can best tell. Now, be your troth, tell your intent. Did not the archer please you right well?
Of God in heaven I take witness that sinful work was never my thought. I am a maid yet of pure cleanness, like as I was into this world brought.
Other witness shall none be sought. Thou art with child, each man may see. I charge you both, ye tarry not, but to the bishop come forth with me.
To the bishop with you we wend, of our purgation have we no doubt.
Almighty God shall be our friend when the truth is tried out.
Yea, on this wise excuseth every scout, when here her own sin him doth defame. But lowly than thy gin to loth, when they be guilty and founden in blame. Therefore come forth, cuckold be name, the bishop shall your life oppose. Come forth also, ye goodly dame, a clean hussif as I suppose. I shall you tellen withouten glows, and ye were mine withouten lack. I should each day beshrew your nose, and ye did bring me such a pack.
Just going
My
to
lord-
pause there because we've had some various movements back and forth, and we are now returning, as it were. So Den or Sim the Summoner has been sent to get Joseph and Mary. It's interesting that the lawyers and the judges are actually quite pro Mary. Episcobus basically goes, "Oi, you shit talking about my you know, I know Mary, you can't say things like that, you know, make sure you've got your evidence, people, because you know slander, that's that will go down badly on you." So it's interesting that the court is actually very much in their favor before we begin. So the Den journeys to Mary and Joseph, grabs them. "Did not the archer please you well right well?" He's not on their side. I can suspect. You know, it's where's this trial going to go, people? Where's this trial going to go? Thoughts from the room? Helen.
Well, the evidence is against her.
Mm.
She is obviously heavily pregnant. On the other hand, the purgation, putting someone to their it's oath swearing. In an ecclesiastical court, you can clear yourself by taking an oath that you are innocent and finding a sufficient number of people who swear that they believe you, known as compurgators. And it does seem as if that's the way the defense is going.
Mm. Yes, and I think it's important to flag up these questions of ecclesiastical court proceedings, because it does seem to be structured that way. There doesn't appear to be any attempt to recreate Jewish practice of the centuries earlier. These are all very much working through a Christian ecclesiastical tradition, but that's sort of the logic of these plays, is that we've got all these things in conversation with each other.
This was often known as the bawdy court, because all the sexual offences were brought before it.
Mm. So for the audience, this will all be quite familiar. Lynn?
I'm confused as to why Mary, who is evidently cohabitating with Joseph already, is being accused of cuckolding him. Why are people not assuming that the child is his? Like,
They've met him.
Is he supposedly too old?
Yep.
Is that it? Okay.
Um,
My sense from my, not great familiarity, but having read some of the synoptic gospels, is that it was assumed that her husband was the father of her child at the time, until he grew up and began his ministry. So this is just weird to me. Sorry.
Well, I mean, this is weird in several ways. It seems to be the thesis of these plays is basically to say that Joseph definitely could never have been able to have fathered any children for various reasons. The fact that we then also have this literal trial, presumably to prove that he definitely has not fathered this child, seems to be something that they're very, very hot on. And it seems you've got to remember this is a unique play. There are no other plays that does this story at all. It's not even, I think, in European literature as well. I think it just it doesn't mean there aren't others. It is based on other accounts, but in dramatic tradition, this is the only survivorship that we've got. Sarah,
This trial storyline is that this is the only one?
yeah, there doesn't seem to be any other examples of this story. Apart from, in narrative terms, it has a source or sources, but I don't think there's any other dramatic interpretation of this particular scene.
What's the source?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I will have to check that, but they didn't make it up. I am fairly certain. So other thoughts about the way, again, we've got this sense they're starting on one place, they travel to another place. We've seen this. And then they travel back again. Den is traveling amongst the audience. He's going, get out me way, quite energetically. So again, they're working the crowd in quite a specific way. Other thoughts? No. Okay, let's get into the trial. We left Den mid-speech. He's just bringing Mary and Joseph to the group. Just remember that one of the doctors is also reading Joseph, so don't get confused between defense and judicial practice.
I'm going to go back a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I shall you tellen withouten glows, and ye were mine withouten lack. I would each day bestrew your nose, and ye did bring me such a pack. My lord the bishop, here I have brought this goodly couple at your bidding, and as me seemeth, as be her fraught, fair child Lule, soon must she sing.
To her a cradle, and you would bring. You might save money in her purse because she's your cousin young. I pray you, sir, let her never fare the worse.
Alas, Mary, what hast thou wrought? I am ashamed, even for thy sake. How hast thou changed thine holy thought? Did old Joseph with strength take thee? Hast thou chosen another make, by whom thou art thus brought in shame? Tell me, who hath wrought this rake? How hast thou lost thine holy name?
My name, I hope, is safe and sound. God to witness, I am a maid of fleshly lust and ghostly wound, that did near thought I never essayed.
How should thy womb thus be arrayed, so greatly swollen as that it is? But if some man thee had overlaid, thy womb should never be so great a risk.
Hark thou, Joseph, I am afraid that thou hast wrought this open sin. This woman thou hast thus betrayed with great flattering or some false gin.
How, by my troth, he hit the pin. With that purpose in faith I hold. Tell now how thou thus her didst win, or knowledge thyself for a cuckold.
She is for me a true clean maid, and I for her am clean also of fleshly sin I never essayed, sithen that she was wedded me too.
Thou shalt not scape from us yet so. First thou shalt tell us another lay. Straight to the altar thou shalt go, the dring of vengeance there to assay. Here is the bottle of God's vengeance. This drink shall not be now thy purgation. This hath such virtue by God's ordinance, that what man drink of this potation, and goeth certain in procession, here in this place, this altar about, if he be guilty, some malcalculation, plain in his face shall show it out. If thou be guilty, tell us. Let's see. Our God's might be not too bold, if thou presume and guilty be. God, thou dost grieve many a fold.
I am not guilty, as I first told. Almighty God, I take witness.
And this drink in hast thou hold, and on procession, and on the dress.
And Joseph takes the drink a circuit around the altar, something along those lines. Anyone's Latin better than mine?
Drinks and walks round the altar.
This drink I take with meek intent, as I am guiltless to God I pray. Lord, as thou art omnipotent, on me thou show the truth this day. About this altar I take the way. O gracious God, help thy servant, as I am guiltless again. Yon may thin hand of mercy this time me grant.
This old shrew may not well gone. Long he tarrieth to go about. Lift up thy feet, set forth thy tongue, or be my truth, thou gettest a clout.
No, sir, evil Zedum, come to thy snout. What height thy legs now to be lame? Thou didst him put right freshly out, when thou didst play with yon young dame.
I pray to God, give him mischance. His legs here do fold for age, but with this damsel, when he did dons, the old churl had right great courage.
The shrew was then set in a dotage, and had good lust that time to plain. Gaff she not you coddle to pottage, when ye had done to comfort your brain?
Ah, gracious God, help me this tide. Again this people that me doth fame, as I never more did touch her side, this day help me throw worldly shame. About this altar to keep my fame, 7 times I have gone round about. I be worthy to suffer blame. Oh, rightful God, my sin show out.
Joseph, with heart thank God thy Lord, who high mercy doth thee excuse. For thy purgation we shall record. With her of sin thou didst never muse. But Mary, thyself mayst not refuse. All great with child we see thee stand. What Mr. Man did thee misuse? Why hast thou sinned against thine husband?
I trespass never with earthly wight. Thereof I hope through goddess sand, here to be purged before your sight, from all sin clean, like as mine husband. Take me the bottle out of your hand, here shall I drink before your face. About this altar than shall I fond 7 times go by goddess grace.
See, this bold Bismare would presume, again, God to prove his might. Though God's vengeance her should consume, she will not tell her false delight. Thou art with child, we see in sight. To us thy womb thee doth accuse. There was never woman yet in such plain plight, that from mankind her coward excuse.
In faith, I suppose that this woman slept without an old cupboard while it did snow, and flake thereof into her mouth crept, and thereof the child in her womb doth grow.
And beware, dame, for this is well enow, when it is born, that if the sun shine, it will turn to water again, as I trow, for snow under water doth evermore recline.
With God's high might, look thou not yape, of thy purgation well thee advise. If thou be guilty, thou mayst not scape. Beware ever of God that rightful justice. If God with vengeance set on thee his sice, but only thou, but all thy kin is shamed. Not only thou, but all thy kin is shamed. Better is to tell the truth, devise, than God for to grieve, and of him be gramed.
I trust in his grace, I shall him never grieve. His servant I am in word, deed, and thought. A male undefiled, I hope he shall me prove. I pray you, let me naught.
Now be that good Lord that all this world hath wrought. If God on thee show any manner token, purgation, I trow, was never so dear bought. If I may on thee in any wise be broken. Hold here the bottle, and take a large draught, and about the altar go thy procession.
To God in this case my cause I have betaught. Lord, through thine help, I drink of this potation.
And she drinks and goes around the altar many times.
God, as I never knew of man's maculation, but ever have lived in true virginity, send me this day thine holy consolation, that all this fair people my cleanness may see. O gracious God, as thou hast chose me, for to be thy mother of me to be born, save thy tabernacle that clean is kept for thee, which now I'm put at reproof and scorn. Gabriel told me with words he beforn, that ye of your goodness would become my child. Help me now of your highness, my worship be not lorn. Ah, dear son, I pray you, help your mother mild.
Almighty God, what may this mean? For all the drink of God's potation, this woman with child is fair and clean, without an foul spot or maculation. I cannot by none imagination prove her guilty and sinful of life. It showeth openly by her purgation she is clean made, both mother and wife.
Be my father's soul, here is great guile. Because she is sipped of your kindred, the drink is changed by some false wile, that she no shame should have this steed.
Because thou deemest that we do falsehead, and for thou didst him thus defame, thou shalt right here maugre thine head, before all these people, drink of the same.
Sir, in good faith, draught I pull, if these two drinkers have not all spent.
And he drinks, feels a terrible pain in his head, and falls.
Out, alas, what haileth my skull? Mine heat with fire, methinketh is brent. Mercy, good Mary, I do me repent of my cursed and false language.
Now God, Lord in heaven omnipotent, of his great mercy your sickness assuage.
We all on knees fall here on ground. Thou, God's handmaid, praying for grace, all cursed language and shame on sound. Good Mary, forgive us here in this place.
Now God forgive you all your trespass, and also forgive you all defamation, that ye have said both more and less to mine hindrance and maculation.
Now, Blessed Virgin, we thank you all of your good heart and great patience. We will go with you home to your hall, to do you service with high reverence.
I thank you heartily of your benevolence. Unto your own house I pray you ye go, and take this people home with you hence. I am not disposed to passen henceforth.
Then farewell, maiden and pure virgin. Farewell, true handmaid of God in bliss. We all to you lowly incline, and take our leave of you as worthy is.
Almighty God, your ways wise, for that high Lord is most of might. He mote you speed, that ye not miss in heaven of him to have a sight.
Honored in heaven be that high Lord, whose endless grace is so abundant that he doth show the true record of each wight that is his true servant. That Lord to worship with heart pleasant, we both be bound right on this place, which our purgation us did grant and proved us pure by high grace.
Forsooth, good spouse, I thank him highly of his good grace for our purgation. Our cleanness is known full openly by virtue of his great consolation.
And everybody goes. End of this play. Drink the water of life. If you are pure of heart, you will not go mad. Well, you will go mad. There'll be a whole giant worms, and it will all be awful. Sorry. Yeah, it's a really interesting ritual, isn't it? It's this thing. You drink and walk around the altar 7 times, and the way they're mocking Joseph for being, come on, your legs were able to do a quick knee trembler, weren't they? Come on, you can get around the altar. I mean, there's something really, really odd about the heckling.
Well, I think it's fairly mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, people are nasty.
Yeah. These characters are
Deep
nasty.
down.
This fits how they work. Lynn, I saw a hand.
Oh, I'm actually looking something up on the interwebs right now because this reminds me what Numbers 5:11 through 31, the ordeal of the bitter waters. This is what this reminds me of. There's a passage in Numbers where if a man's wife is suspected of adultery and is pregnant, they take her to the temple. The rabbi gives her some kind of potion and casts a spell on her, basically. And if the child is her husband, nothing happens to her. And if the child is another man's, she miscarries. So
nice.
Numbers. I can never remember chapter and verse, but I just looked it up. So that's in Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 through 31. So I'm wondering if this is a reference to that ceremony.
Undoubtedly.
Yes, it seems to be the connective tissue. The play derives, according to the footnote I've got here, from Pseudo Matthew. I don't know what that text is, but there is presumably something that is a bit like Matthew.
One of the non-canonical Gospels, probably.
Yeah, something along those lines, or something based on further down the line. So maybe it's that cross-pollination where they've taken something from somewhere else in the Bible and then applied it to characters who we have met.
But Matthew is the most Jewish of the Gospel writers. Consequently, I mean, he's the one who is most connected with the Old Testament. So it's perfectly possible that pseudo-Matthew quotes numbers.
Okay, so as a drama, there's a lot of walking around going on here. There's an altar, and there's seven orbits of the altar, and we get one of the evil guys. Only one of them goes has a headache. The other one doesn't. But it's that punishment of backbiting, gossip, malicious gossip, being punished here as well. So this can apply to your day-to-day life. It's not just about these other people. Learn these lessons, people. Learn these lessons. When you're next on Twitter, don't do this. Other thoughts before we move on to the next play, Helen?
Only one of the detractors drinks. It isn't that the other detractor doesn't suffer. Hic bibit, it's singular.
Yeah. So presumably the other one goes, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah, right.
He's not an idiot.
There's a chance for a comedy moment of the other one going.
Also, Mary does a lot of. Mary speaks to God inside her, which always strikes me as strange. But I understand that is very much a medieval thing. That Mary regards her own baby as God already, even though unborn.
Yes. Any other thoughts about this? I mean, it sort of functions quite well. It's a weird play, I think, from our modern perspective. It's not like other plays where we can grab hold of standard biblical narratives and you can leap with that. It is but it is actually very comprehensible. Once you get the physical stuff in there, which we don't really have, stage directions are there, but in Latin at the moment until I actually sit down and do some translation-y things. It does sort of work. Other thoughts before we move on, Dan?
Just about the Latin there, actually the one that you had, the link that you had supplied last week of the modern version of it actually does all of the translation for you, just to save you some work there.
Yeah, but then it's somebody else's. Technically,
right,
we don't own it then. Air gap. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to play 14 unless anyone else has any additional thoughts on that. I think everyone's just a bit nonplussed. We'll go on to play 15, where I think we're in safer territory, he said. We're going into the Nativity. So this is very Joseph and Mary heavy. Joseph and Mary, take it away.
Lord, what travail to man is wrought. Rest in this world behoveth him none. Octavia, our emperor, sadly hath besought our tribute him to bear. Folk must forth each one. It is cried in every burg and city be name. I that am a poor timber rife, born of the blood of David, the emperor's commandment I must hold with, and else I were to blame. Now, my wife Mary, what say ye to this? For succor needs, I must forth wend unto the city of Bedlam, for hence I iwis. Thus to labor I must my body bend.
Mine husband and my spouse, with you I will wend. A sight of that city fain would I see. If I might of mine ale any there find, it would be great joy unto me.
My spouse, ye be with child, I fear you to carry, for meseemeth it were works wild, but you to please right fain would I. Yet woman benigheth to grieve when thee be with child. Now let us forth wend as fast as we may, and Almighty God speed us in our journey.
Ah, my sweet husband, would ye tell to me what tree is yon standing upon yon hill?
Forsooth, Mary, it is a clepid, a cherry tree. In time of year ye might feed you thereon your fill.
Turn again, husband, and behold yon tree, how that it bloometh now so sweetly.
Come on, Mary, that we were worn at yon city, or else we may be blamed, I tell you lively.
Now, my spouse, I pray you to behold how the cherries grow upon yon tree, for to have thereof right fain I would, and it please you to labour so much for me.
Your desire to fulfill, I shall essay sickerly. Ow! To pluck you of these cherries, it is a work wild, for the tree is so high it will not be lightly. Therefore, let him pluck you cherries, begot you a child.
Now, Lord God, I pray thee, grant me this boon, to have of these cherries, and it be your will. Now I thank it, Lord God. Now I thank it, God. This tree boweth me down. I may now gather now and eat my fill.
Ow! I know well I have offended my God and Trinity, speaking to my spouse these unkind words, for now I believe well it may none other be, but that my spouse beareth the King's son of bliss. He help us now at our need, of the kindred of Jesse, worthily were ye bore. Kings and patriarchs go before, all these worthy of your kindred war, as clerks in story read.
Now, gramercy, husband, for your report, in our ways wisely let us forth wend. The Father Almighty he be our comfort, the Holy Ghost glorious, he be our friend.
And we're just going to pause there because we've now travelled further along. So I hope my demonstration of the cherry tree there was coming across.
It was a blasted nuisance. I kept on seeing it out of the corner of my eye. How could I read while the tree was giving such a performance?
He wants payment. Send the check off.
Yeah. So there's a cherry tree in this. This is again same source as last time. Apparently, so it is. They're passing a cherry tree. It's out of season. There should be no cherries on it, but no, by a miracle, not only are there cherries, but the cherries that are really high in the tree literally bows down, and so that Joseph is able to pluck the cherries. It's a miracle, people. It's a miracle. Sorry, just reading the chat. We'll move on. Thoughts of the room about this little sequence. As we say, we all remember this from our nativity. Every year. Eric.
Apparently, God does delivery. But I mean, maybe that's just me.
Oh, God is Deliveroo. Other thoughts before we move forward?
Yeah, I have never heard this anecdote before. Not in the Gospels, is it? Or is it?
No, it's pseudo Matthew apparently. Whatever that is.
Golden legend time.
Yeah.
But it would have been somewhat culturally familiar.
It does ring a bell.
This is the thing. All of these mystery plays are feeding off, the accumulated stories around it. So we've just come out the other side of a Mary play sequence where, it's all accumulated. None of it's from the Gospels at all. It's all the extension of that story, and that's what this is doing to a degree as well.
Well, it's also obviously a sort of foreshadowing of Jesus in the fig tree, when there are no figs on it, and Jesus is like, "Well, be that way," and the tree withers. So it's sort of that story in the mirror, opposite the tree cooperates. So I guess somebody made up this story as kind of a prefiguring the fig tree story,
And presumably cherry was a major craving for Mary on her journey. I mean, it's what did she have with the cherries? No, neither do I. Nobody knows. Nobody knows because it's all true. Eric.
Can't help but wonder how many cherries are there, cherry trees are there, like in like the Middle East, or wherever this is supposed to be set, because like obviously it kind of assumes that there's a lot of sort of that kind of fruit around.
Well, you've got to remember it's Christmas, so finding a flowering cherry tree in the Middle East is very, very difficult. But it's obviously a staple crop. That's historically accurate. That's fine. Helen.
No, I was just going to say that the cherries come originally from the Black Sea, so the Middle East was a big place for cherries.
Okay. Shall we carry on? We're getting to an element of the story I think we might recognise a little bit more. So, Joseph, you've entered the city of Bedlam. Go and find someone to talk to.
Hail, worshipful sir, and good day. A citizen of this city you seem to be. Of harbour for spouse and me you pray. For truly this woman is full weary. And fain at rest, sir, would she be. We would fulfill the bidding of our emperor for to pay tribute as right is our, and to keep ourselves from dollar, we are come to the city.
Sir, hostage in this city I know none. Thine wife and thou in for to sleep. This city is beset with people every one, and yet they lie without full every street. Within no wall man cometh thou knowest. Be thou once within the city gate, once in the street, a place may be sought, thereon to rest without debate.
Nay, sir, debate that will I knoweth. All such things passen my power. But yet, my care and all my thought is for Mary, my darling dear. A sweet wife, what shall we do? Where shall we lodge this night? Unto the Father of heaven pray we so, us to keep from every wicked wight.
Good man, one word I will thee say, if thou wilt do by the counsel of me, yonder is an house of Paris that stand by the way, among the beasts harboured may ye be.
Now the Father of heaven, he must you yield, his son in my womb, forsooth he is. He keep thee and thy good be frith and field. Go we hence, husband, for now time is. But hark now, good husband, a new relation, which in myself I know right well. Christ in me hath taken incarnation. Son soon will be born, the truth I feel. In this poor lodge, my chamber I take, here for to abide the blessed birth of him that all this world did make. Between mine sides, I feel he stirreth.
God be thine help, spouse, it swimmeth me sore. Thus feebly lodged, and in so poor degree, God's son among beasts for to be bore, his wonder works fulfilled must be. In an house that is desolate without any wall, fire nor wood none here is.
Joseph, mine husband, abiden here I shall, for here will be born the king's son of bliss.
Now, gentle wife, be of good mirth, and if ye will aught have tell me what you think, I shall not spare for shep nor dearth. Now tell me your lust of meat and drink.
For meat and drink lust I right nout. Almighty God my food shall be. Now I am in chamber bought, I hope right well my child to see. Therefore, husband, of your honesty, avoid you hence out of this place, that I alone with humility here shall abide God's high grace.
Already, wife, you for to please. I will go hence out of your way and seek some midwives, you for to ease, when that ye travail of child this day. Farewell, true wife, and also clean. May God be your comfort in Trinity.
To God in heaven, for you I pray, he you preserve whereso ye be.
And in Joseph's absence, Mary gives birth, having got him out of the way. Joseph, however, is on the road, and he's hunting for some help here. So, Joseph, let's see who you meet on the street.
Now, God, of whom cometh all relief, and is all grace in thee is ground, so save my wife from hurt and grief, till I some midwives for her have found. Travailing woman in care be bound, with great throes when they do groan. God help my wife, that she not be swooned. I am full sorry she is alone. It is not convenient a man to be there, woman, gone and travelling. Wherefore some midwife fain would I see my wife to help that is so young.
Why makest thou, man, such moaning? Tell me some deal of your great moan.
My wife is now in great longing, travailing of child, and is alone. For God's love that sit enthroned, as ye midwives that can your good, help my young spouse in hasten on. I dread me sore of that fair food.
Be of good cheer and of glad mood. We twain midwives with thee will go. There was never woman in such plight stood, but we were ready to help her to do. My name is Salome. All men me know for a midwife of worthy fame. When women travail, grace doth grow. Thereas I come, I had never shame.
And I am Zelomy, men know my name. We twain with thee will go together, and help thy wife for hurt and grame. Come forth, Joseph, we go straight thither.
I thank you, dames, ye comfort my life. Straight to my spouse walk we the way. And this poor lodge, like Mary my wife, her for to comfort, good friends assay.
We dare not enter this lodge in fay. There is therein so great brightness. Moon be night, nor sun be day, shone never so clear in their lightness.
Into this house dare I not gone. The wonderful light doth me affray.
Then will myself gone in alone, and cheer my wife, that I may. All hail, maiden and wife, I say. How dost thou fare? Tell me thy cheer. Thee for to comfort and jessen this day, twain good midwives I have brought here. Thee for to help, that art in hard band, Zelomy and Salome, come with me. For doubt of dread without they do stand, and dare not come in for light that they see.
And we have a stage direction. Mary's going to come in smiling. So we've got the brightest light known to man shining out of this barn. I mean, goodness only knows how they do that. I mean, beyond just act it and things. We've had lighting questions before. The beam, how do you do beams of light into people's faces, and how do you depict this? So that's an interesting question to sort of throw in there, of which I don't know have any answers. As of course we all know the midwife stories from the Nativity. That's the one that's in common parlance again. We're all on the same page. This is a very familiar Nativity tale so far. No, not familiar at all. So we're not familiar with Zelomy and Salome, the two midwives there. No, nobody come across that one before. I liking Sarah, your midwife. Very, very nice, very nice. They're professionals. They're good healthcare professionals. He's gone out and found them, and they come back and find that the barn is ablaze with light. I mean, I kind of want to film this one rather than try and stage it, or if you're on stage, I mean, it just, you can see her coming out with the baby smiling, and, and you can have the music, and it is it's quite bold. It's quite bold, this one. Thoughts from the room? Everyone's just stunned.
Yeah, the stage direction where it says, in Joseph's absence, Mary gives birth, just like, boop, just pops it out on stage. I mean,
yeah, we've had these sort of instantaneous, miraculous births before. I think I seem to recall we've been here before. Yeah, they don't link. It's not. There's no travail for Mary. It's literally just. I feel it stirring. Go and have a cigarette, love. I'll be done in a minute. You don't want to watch this. Pa-da, and it's immediate.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tamara, as you're primarily a witness for this session, how's it going down for you?
Well, I don't think I ever considered the whole. It's interesting because I never really thought about was Joseph present or not for the birth. It never occurred to me, and now I'm actually thinking. Of course he wasn't there. But it's funny how they're literally like getting him out of the way for it.
Well,
And the fact that apparently because she's giving birth to the Messiah, it's like
yeah, well, it's the Messiah. It's what it's the fact at least he's going off to get some midwives. It's not like he's just going, I can't handle this. I'm off for a cigarette. He is actually he is doing a practical job. Helen and Alan.
There is a theological point that the pains and awfulness of childbirth are down to the fall, Eve's fall. This is the curse of Eve. And consequently, one can assume that Mary was fairly free of this, if not totally free, being herself immaculately conceived. Consequently, theologically, I suppose she could have had a completely smooth and pain-free childbed.
Yeah, it's something of a celestial epidural here is potentially there.
Yeah, you could put it that way. I
can't believe I just did, but
But I can see there could be a theological argument. I mean, mostly I've seen this in school nativities where a doll is produced from under a girl's skirt in a really strange and disturbing way.
Alan.
I'm just slightly surprised that there's the incredulity at this point of my co-readers, given that they all accepted that a cherry tree would flower fruit and bow down to be picked, which was accepted with virtually no argument.
Yeah, it still seems perfectly normal to me.
I'm obviously on a different set of herbs to the rest of you.
Yeah.
Well, it was Rob's acting. He didn't act the birth. He did act the cherry tree.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for that.
I mean, I do requests, but there are limits. I've seen Stephen Burkhoff do something similar. So we will move on. I think probably for the best. Because the story's there's going to be a twist, people. There's more plot to come. So Mary appears smiling, and Joseph's standing there with two midwives.
The might of the Godhead in his majesty will not be hid now at this while. The child that is born will prove his mother free, a very clean maid, and therefore I smile.
Why do you laugh, wife? Ye be to blame. I pray you, spouse, do no more so. In hap the midwives will take it to ground, and at your need help well none do. If you have need of midwives, lo, peradventure they will gone hence. Therefore be sad, and ye may sow, and winneth all the midwives good diligence.
Husband, I pray you, displease you naught, thou that I laugh, and great joy have. Here is the child this world hath wrought, born now of me, that all things shall save.
I ask your grace, for I did rave. Oh, gracious child, I ask mercy, as thou art Lord, and I but knave. Forgive me now my great folly. Alas, midwives, what have I said? I pray you come to us more near, for here I find my wife a maid, and in her arm a child hath here. Both maid and mother she is in fear, that God will have may never more fail. Mother on earth was never none clear without she had in birth travail.
In birth travail must needs she have, or else no child of her is born.
I pray you, dame, and ye vouchsafe, come see the child my wife before.
Great God be in this place. Sweet sister, how fare ye?
I thank the Father of his for high grace, his own Son and my child here ye may see.
All hail, Mary, and right good morn. Who was midwife of this fair child?
He that nothing will have forlorn sent me this babe, and I am made mild.
With hand let me now touch and feel, if ye have need of medicine. I shall you comfort and help right well, as other women, if ye have pine.
Of this fair birth that here is mine, pain near grieving feel I right none. I am clean made and pure virgin. Test with your hand yourself alone.
And Zelomy inspects the virgin at this point.
O mightful God, have mercy on me, a marvel that never was heard beforn. Here openly I feel and see, a fair child of a maiden is born, and needeth no washing as others done, full clean and pure forsooth is he, withouten spot or any pollution. His mother not hurt of virginity. Come near, good sister Salome, behold the breasts of this clean maid, full of fair milk, how that they be, and her child clean, as first I said, and other being not foul arrayed, but clean and pure, both mother and child. Of this matter I am dismayed, to see them both thus undefiled.
It is not true. It may never be that both be clean. I cannot believe. A maid milk have, never man did see a woman bear child without great grieve. I shall never trow it, but I it prove with hand touching. But I say, in my conscience it may never cleave that she hath child and is a maid.
You for to put clean out of doubt, touch with your hand and well assay. Wisely ransack and try the truth out, whether I be fouled or a clean maid.
And Salome examines Mary, screams out in pain at her burnt hand.
Alas, alas, and well away, for my great doubt and false belief. Mine hand is dead and dry as clay. My false untrust hath wrought mischief. Alas, the time that I was born thus to offend against God's might. Mine hand's power is now all lorn, stiff as a stick, and may no plight. For I did tempt this maid so bright and held against her pure cleanness. In great mischief now am I pight. Alas, alas for my lewdness! O Lord of might, thou knowest the truth, that I have ever had dread of thee. On every power white ever I have wroth and given him arms for love of thee, both wife and widow that asketh for thee, and friendless children that hadn't great need. I did them cure, and all for thee, and took no reward of them, nor meed. Now as a wretch for false belief that I showed in tempting this maid, my hand is dead and doth me grieve. Alas, that ever I essayed.
Woman, thy sorrow to have delayed, worship the child that there is born. Touch the cloth, there he is laid, for he shall save all that is lorn.
O glorious child and King of bliss, I ask you mercy for my trespass. I acknowledge my sin I deemed amiss. O blessed babe, grant me some grace of you, made also here in this place. I ask mercy, kneeling on knee. Most holy maid, grant me solace. Some word of comfort say now to me.
As God is angel to you did tell, my child is medicine for every sore. Touch his clothes by my counsel. Your hand full soon he will restore.
And Salome touches the clothing of the baby Christ and is healed.
Ah, now blessed be this child evermore, the Son of God, forsooth he is, hath healed mine hand that was forlore, through false belief and deeming amiss. In every place I shall tell this, of a clean maid that God is born, and in our likeness God now clad is, mankind to save that was forlorn. His mother, a maid as she was before, not foul, polluted as other women be, but fair and fresh as rose on thorn, lily white, clean with pure virginity. Of this blessed babe my leave now do I take, and also of you, high mother of bliss, of this great miracle more knowledge to make. I shall go tell it in each place I wis.
Farewell, good dame, and God your way wise in all your journey. God be your speed, and of his high mercy, that Lord so you bliss, that ye never offend more in word, thought, nor deed.
And I also do take my leave here of all this blessed good company, praying your grace both far and near on us to speed your endless mercy.
The blessing of that Lord that is most mighty, mote spread on you in every place. Of all your enemies to have the victory, God that best may grant you his grace. Amen.
Amen indeed. There are so many things I want to say here, but I really think I shouldn't. Yes, this is quite a gynecological exam here. If you believe that she is a pure and unfouled person, then you can examine her, and that's fine. And if you don't believe, then you get your hand turned to stone. Broadly speaking, there, but only through the saving grace. An angel turns up, of course, to just announce this. Might not have been clear to the viewers at home. It's not where you're expecting this to go. I think for a modern audience, there's a certain amount of WTFing going on in the chat. Tamara, I think I'm going to just hand that one to you for a moment. First thoughts?
I hate you. I'm not going to say what I put in the chat. It reminds me of a really cheap horror film that I think everyone's seen. That is all.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it is. This play is a bit obsessed with this whole idea of her being, being clean, and this idea that afterwards you are unclean and have to be purified, and it's really quite unpleasant and difficult to deal with. I mean, you've got this sort of the slightly weirdness of staging this. And how do you physically do this? It's very odd. It's very odd for us today. Helen,
it was
Especially as Mary and the midwives are all being played by men.
probably.
I mean, that's another thing to throw into the
No,
seriously weirdness mix.
I'm going to throw in the probably. We're going from an earlier mindset that it's not 100% guaranteed that they would all be men. That you're thinking early modern. There's no absolute reason why different communities and different spaces don't have perfectly standard casting practicalities. Also, if it's we do have knowledge of closed communities like nuns performing drama, so it's not wholly impossible. It's unlikely. I'm going to put that out there, but it's not wholly impossible. Lots of hands flying up there. I'll go back to Tamara first.
well, I mean, I was focusing on that one specific thing, but it is kind of very disturbing to a modern audience, I think. Whereas obviously back in the day, this seemed to have been a thing that people would just do. and it's well, I say disturbing to a modern audience. I want to say disturbing to a modern Western audience, because there are places in the world where this is still being done.
Yes, I mean there is this. I mean, the idea of cleanness, the cleansing the Virgin as well, is part of the narrative that turns up in plays as well. I think this isn't the only time we have midwives, but I don't think they're used in quite this way in other plays. I can't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, it is not an issue that's gone away. I think this kind of logic is used still today in ways, so that becomes even doubly problematic for us. Who else had hands up? I've forgotten who was that. Alan next.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been put on by the then version of the WI, couldn't it? I do wonder if it's the first dramatic suspension of disbelief.
Probably not a suspension of disbelief. I'm not. I don't see it in a WI meeting myself. But I don't know on that front. Other thoughts? Lynn, did I see a hand?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Sarah put something in the chat. I think I'll just throw to Sarah about the premise of the religious premise is and the general problematic nature of any religious drama. You want?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to say too much about that because I'll probably get like stalked on YouTube. But like, yeah, it's just always struck me as being odd, an odd thing to fixate. I mean, all religions fixate on one thing or another, but it's always struck me as just being a really odd thing to fixate on as to whether a woman is a virgin when she gives birth or not. But I am aware that I'm probably offending millions of Catholics there, so I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate point to raise. Helen.
There's a tremendous amount about pollution here, because we've lost the whole idea of the churching of women, and that childbirth was held to be an incredibly polluting event, that a woman could not be admitted back into society until she had been cleansed of the pollution of having given birth. It's always struck me as being one of the things I like least about Christianity, and there are a lot. But this does seem to have died out, certainly in the parts of the world with which I am familiar. But it was very much a thing in the Middle Ages.
Tamara.
Well, just to add on to that, not just childbirth, but also, your monthlies. Like everything about a woman, everything natural would have been dirty. And I just, do you know what, Sarah, I'm going to do it for you. I was born Catholic. I'm just going to raise a giant middle finger to the patriarchy for that. Thank you very much. Come at me if you want.
Excellent. So, any additional thoughts of apostasy? Anyone want to throw in? No. Okay. Let's go to, shall we say, a slightly less problematic play. This one is much more familiar, much more straightforward. It's the Shepherd's Play, and so we've got some angels starting off. We've got a general. Angels talking to some shepherds, basically. I don't know why I'm labouring this point. Shepherds, angel. Go, angel.
Glory to God that sit in heaven, and peace to man on earth ground. A child is born beneath the live, and through him many folk shall be unbound. Sacraments there shall be 7. When enthrall that child's wound. Therefore I sing a joyful Stephen. The flower of friendship now is found. God that wont on high, he is gloried, man's ghost to win. He hath sent salve to man's sin. Peace is coming to man's kin. through God's yeah, I have no idea what that says.
It might be just slight sly. It is an interesting question on that one.
Through God's slight sly.
Okay, sir. Monstrous fellow mine, I saw a great light with shen and shine. Yet saw I never so silkuth sign shapen upon the skies. It is brighter than the sunbeam. It cometh right over all this realm. Even above Bedlam, I saw it brenn thrice.
Thou art my brother, Buceras. I have beholden the same pass. I trow it is tokening of grace, that shining showeth before. Balaam spake in prophecy, a light should shine upon the sky, when the son of Maid Mary in Bedlam were born.
Though I make little noise, I am an herd that hath Moser. I heard carping of a crozer of Moses in his law, of a maid, a bairn born. On a tree he should be torn, deliver folks that am forlorn. The child should be slaw.
Balaam spake in prophecy, out of Jacob should shine a sky. Many folk he should buy with his bright blood. But that bright blood that he should bleed, he shall us bring for the devil's dread, as a duke most doughty indeed, through his death on road.
Amos spake with mild meth, a fruit sweeter than Borm's breath. His death should slain our soul's death, and draw us all from hell. Therefore such light goeth beforn, in token that the child is born, which shall save that is forlorn, as prophets gone spell.
Daniel the prophet thus gan speak, wise God from woeous reek, thy bright heaven thou to break, and meddle thee with a maid, this prophecy is now spade. Christ in our kind is clad, therefore mankind may be glad, as prophets beforehand said.
And the angels sing Gloria in excelsis Deo above them.
Aye, this was a wonder note that was now sungen above the sky. I have that voice full well, I wot. They song glory.
Nay, so mote thee, so was it naught. I have that song full well in in my wit well is it is wrought. It was glay, glow, glass, glum.
The song methought it was glory, and afterward he said us too, there is a child born, shall be a prince mighty, for to seek that child, I read we go.
The prophecy of Bustras is spedly sped. Now like we hints as the light us lead, might we see once that bright on bed, our bale it would unbind. We should sought it for no sure. Busk we us hence to Bedlam Boor, to see that fair fresh flower, the maid mild in mind.
Let us follow with all our might, with song and mirth we shall us dight, and worship with joy that worthy wight, that Lord is of mankind. Let us go forth fast on high, and honour that babe worthily, with mirth, song, and melody. Have do, this song begin.
And the shepherds all sing Stella Celli Extirpavit as they walk on to find Christ and the family are all there.
Hail, flower of flowers, fairest he found. Hail, pearl peerless, primrose of prize. Hail, bloom on bed, we shall be unbound with thy bloody wounds and works full wise. Hail, God greatest, I greet thee on ground. The greedy devil shall groan grisly as a grease, when thou winnest this world with thine wide wound, and puttest man to paradise with plenty of price. To love thee is my delight. Hail, flower fair and free, light from the Trinity. Hail, blessed mote thou be. Hail, maiden fairest in sight.
Hail, flower over flowers, founden in fright. Hail, Christ, kind in our kiss. Hail, worker of well, to one on us with. Hail, winner wis. Hail, former and friend. Hail, feller of the fiend. Hail, clad in our kind. Hail, Prince of Paradise.
Hail, Lord over lords that liest full low. Hail, King over kings, thy kindred to know. Hail, comely knight, the devil to overthrow. Hail, flower of all. Hail, worker to win, bodies bounden in sin. Hail in a beast bin, bestad in a stall.
Herds on hill, beth not still, but saith your will to many a man. How God is born this merry morn, that is forlorn, find it he can.
We shall tell by dale and hill how Harrower of hell was born this night, mirths to mell and fiends to quell that were so fell against his right.
Farewell, babe and bairn of bliss. Farewell, Lord, that lovely is. Thee to worship, thy feet I kiss. On knees to thee I fall. Thee to worship I fall on knee. All this world may joy of thee. Now farewell, Lord of great pursty. Yeah, farewell, King of all.
Though I be the last that take my leave, yet, fair mulling, take it not at no grieve. Now, fair babe, well mut thou chieve. Fair child, now have good day. Farewell, mine own dear darling. I wis thou art a right fair thing. Farewell, my lord and my sweeting. Farewell, born in poor array.
Now, ye herdmen, well mote ye be, for your homage and your singing. My song shall acquit you in heaven's sea, and give you all right good hending. Amen.
And the play ends. That's the end of play 16. There is no play 17. There is a manuscript thing. It doesn't really matter to us here. So yes, it's quite a short play. It really is down to basics here of shepherding action. We get 2 songs. Nice to have some songs. We get. What I really like is the shepherds arguing over what the tune was. You're going, no, it was this. It was this. No, it was more. You know, I can name it in 3. They're quite charming. They're quite charming, but the shepherds tend to be. Alan.
I must admit, I'm thinking this play looks to me far more as if it's from a Yorkshire base rather than the East Anglian, which we've thought of for much of the rest of the end towns, because the speech rhythms do seem to accord rather more with what we would now think of as a Yorkshire accent or dialect.
I don't know if that's something you can really go with based on the text you're reading. I mean, I think the dialect is remaining the same from the analysis that the notes we've got. I mean, it's rural. I mean, they're playing and they're probably leaning into an idea of a local accent. But I don't think there's any evidence there that's actual. I mean, it is interesting. We get to these much shorter lines when they actually do the hailing, as opposed to the rest of it, which are longer lines. Lynn.
Well, I did notice, in addition to the shorter lines, that this verse relies heavily on alliteration, which is an older organizing principle of Old English verse rather than post-conquest verse, when rhyme is introduced, because that's the French organizing principle of poetry. So this has got a kind of archaic feel to it. I'm not sure what to make of that, but that's what the alliteration does. It gives us that old English flavor, as opposed to the rhyming, which is more Frenchified.
Yeah, and I mean, to actually go back on Alan's point of sounding like it might be a slightly different voice. I mean, it could be, because we do have plays that jump locations. You know, there isn't necessarily a locating principle in terms of when they were originally written. but I don't think you can ever be too specific about where that would be, because there might not be a central, a place that these things are absolutely associated with in that way. Other thoughts? They don't give any gifts in an active sense, do they? I'm not noticing any gifts. We have that in other plays. Unless I missed any. Eric.
I was just gonna say, like, it's no pressure, he's born like, harrower of hell and all that stuff, and it's like, hey, there's no pressure on him to actually do anything, just like when he grows up, we know he's gonna be like sort of the Messiah, savior, blah blah. But I mean, obviously, this is a play about him, so
yeah. Everybody always knows his end game in these plays, although of course these they give it a sort of a bit of a gloss of suggesting they know all about Balaam's prophecies, and which there's only one play version of that exists in Chester. That's another story. Talking donkey, you don't want to know. So yeah, again, it's that thing of talking about things that they probably shouldn't know about, or they might know about by prophecy, and those sort of anachronistic circular time things. Other thoughts about shepherds? Is there much to say about shepherds? Helen?
I'm always confused by these plays, because I obviously know the gospel versions, mainly from the King James, and from having had what used to be called a good Christian upbringing. But what they didn't have, the King James version, they didn't have the English Bible. So a tremendous amount of what they got was from this sort of source, and from the sermons, and from explanations, which did tend to go off-piste quite a lot, if you see what I mean. So it was very difficult for people to tell what was canonical and what was just traditional.
Yes, we get an awful lot of randomness. I mean, I think we've encountered a lot of randomness today between all of these. In terms of this manuscript, it's coming into hundreds of years have come for this to turn up, and of course we hit the Reformation, and it all gets cleared out pretty sharpish. Shepherds, some of them get names. Do all three of them get names? And we've got Busras, we've got Monfras. Does the third one get a name, or however the ordering system goes? Or have I misunderstood the naming protocols there? No. What's the name of the third shepherd?
We could tell you, but we'd have to kill you after.
Orson Welles.
Hmm?
No. Third man joke, yeah.
But the very fact of them being three shepherds is a traditional thing. But in fact, the Bible just says, there were shepherds in the fields abiding. There is no number there.
Isn't
Yes,
that
everything's in threes. Everything's in threes.
Magi as well? Does it? I don't know that Scripture mentions that there were three.
No, it doesn't. It just, there were shepherds in the fields abiding. They said one to another, let us go now even unto Bethlehem and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. But it doesn't say, one to another is just a general chat. It doesn't mean there were only two of them.
It could be two, it could be six. Yeah, but the three is a magic number, particularly in the Christian era. So
yeah, and as Sarah's put in the chat, there are also three bears, and I think that's an important trinity to remember. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking actually three. One, there's a reference back to the Trinity, but you've also got the issue that if you do stuff as dialogue, it can tend to get a bit stodgier, whereas with three voices, you can play with it a bit more.
Yeah, three's a good number.
Yeah. Of course, we do have. I think Chester has 4, in the sense that there are 3 shepherds and a work experience boy with them, and there's a whole thing about them. I think he pees in the field or something while they're waiting.
Mhm.
You know, that it's one I actually really want to go back to and grasp. And of course, we have lots of shepherd plays available. We've got the Townley Cycle has 2. The second Shepherd's Play is very, very well known, and that plays around with 3 shepherds plus additional characters and playful sheep within it. So which we may get around to having a quick look at some point. Just a note for anyone who is interested in the play of Balaam's Ass. That is in Chester. I think it's play number 5. It is on the podcast. It is quite a weird narrative. It's a talking ass that refuses to go forward because there's an angel in the road that nobody else can see. It's all perfectly reasonable. Balaam is actually the play of Balaam Balak is actually quite an important element. It's referenced a lot, or the prophecies that are associated with that part of the tradition is quite important, and they will keep mentioning Balaam in other things. So you need to know about him. You do. You don't. You really don't. I'm going to go to final thoughts. I'm going to go to Tamara first because I know she needs to leave. So Tamara, 3 plays. Precisely how they would have functioned, whether they actually were all together as part of a sequence that was performed in one go, whether they were separated in some fashion, how they originally came about, nobody knows really. So it's really a question: what would you like to do with them, and just what are they?
I don't know what I'd like to do with them. Some of it, because it's so fresh in my brain, I want to scrape back out. But no, it is interesting. Just because obviously, having grown up or having spent my childhood at least in the Catholic part of Germany, our nativity is either very sanitized or it just focuses on different things. There are 3 innkeepers that usually get quite a big role. And there was only one dude that Joseph spoke to before they went to the stable. In this one. The midwife thing never happens. I don't think you do that with nativity plays usually. But I think that's probably where it would be most interesting. Bearing in mind, if you did that, I just feel a little bit like we might get done in for heresy. But I think that's the hook for me that is of interest, because this is the at least from my upbringing, this is the first time that also with the trial that people have doubted the accuracy of what Mary is saying, and you have this basically she's going through all the things that young women would have needed to go through if they were in that situation, except obviously she's protected by God.
Yeah, there is. I do feel there's a weird, and it's the question of how you frame it. There is a production here focusing on these elements of the narrative that could actually have a really interesting resonance. It's just the question of how you frame it and where you place the production's ideas of what this stuff is about. Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I'm back in familiar territory, given that we've been playing around with the various mystery plays, the Chester cycle and this cycle over a number of years, and the language works for me, and I think they're interesting to look at, and I think worth keeping alive.
Yes, and the various cycles or pseudo cycles do get modern performances in various different ways, and there is a living tradition. There's something slightly less urgent for us to do these plays in a sense, because there is a living tradition that exists. Eric, final thoughts?
I don't know. I think it's kind of in town, like in general, the plays that we've done together, like that I've been around for, seem to be kind of difficult to do, I think, because I don't know how relevant they would be nowadays. I mean, sort of in terms of like performability, not like in terms of content, because like, you know, you could just sort of make it a themed thing, I guess. But I don't know. It's kind of like, why would you even do it? Like, yeah, unless you were really interested in sort of medieval religious drama kind of thing.
Okay, Helen, final thoughts?
Well, the trial scene is interesting as a historical curiosity. If you're interested in ecclesiastical jurisdiction, and it is interesting for that. I suppose if you're looking at the history of midwifery, you might like to take the birth play. For the rest, I would say, well, we've done it. Well done, us. Can we move on to something else now, please?
Is that because you're not a fan of doing a mystery cycle, or are you talking about these individually?
No, I've got nothing against mystery cycles, but I don't see this as one of the leaders of the genre.
Again, but that we've got several to play around with. Doesn't mean we still can't do this one as well. We're not doing a sorting hat. Remember, this isn't an exercise about saying which ones we want to do. The question is, what would we do with it if we were doing this one?
If we had to do it, we would do it very, very, very carefully to a very, very selected audience.
Whereas I feel, in a weird way, I'd like to do it the other way around.
Totally carelessly and to everybody we can.
Absolutely. I there's an element of just going, this could lead to some interesting carnage. Dan, thoughts?
I'm going to echo a couple of my comments from last week. I think this could be of great interest, specifically to medievalists and to people who are interested in medieval plays, the mystery plays, obviously, and early modern plays. I mean, I hear about it a lot. This is something I was really glad to study, and I'm glad to be reading in it again. Obviously, if you're into religious studies, I think you would be very interested as well, especially into the Nativity and Christianity, this whole story. I'm learning a lot from it. Having been raised a Catholic, it's interesting for me, no longer, by the way, but interesting for me to hear all these extra aspects being brought in that I knew nothing about. I'll talk again about it as a document. The more I look at it, especially this particular play, Shepherds, play 16 and play 15 as well, there's a lot of annotations by a reviser in here. It's steering me much more to the direction of this was a text that was not only compiled with a lot of care. I talked a lot last week about the red ink that was used and the pilcrows that were used to specify the different parts. In the trial, for example, you can see how the argument is laid out and when they're going to tack by the red pilcrows or the paragraph marks, as we would probably call them today. In other words, this compiler was taking a lot of care in it. But now I'm noticing other things with the rhyme scheme, with the rhyming couplets, Joseph's final speech, for example, which I did there. Even though they were rhyming couplets, for some reason, they were on the same line and separated by just 2 slashes. It's the only speech in the 3 plays that we've read, or the 6 plays now that we've read, where that happens, 5 plays. This is telling me something about its performative aspects, whether it was just reading it out loud as they would do, or because it was intended to be staged. But somebody cared very much about having this play not only copied out in such a way, but then also revised in such a way. These are substantive corrections that are being made. Child for son, but for example, can bring up many other examples that, for me, that makes it even more interesting to try to break down and maybe perform sometime.
Sarah, final thoughts?
I like the weirdness of it. This whole trial business, and then the midwives, I found that really fascinating, and I think there's you'd have to do things with it, but I think there's scope for using those two plays as the basis for maybe doing a cycle which shows the story more from Mary's perspective. I think what Tamara said before she left was really interesting, and I was feeling the same thing myself, that we don't really usually see the nativity from the perspective of a teenage girl who's pregnant and who's having doubts cast on her reputation, which was a very, very dangerous thing. And I think this kind of touches on it, and I think that could be an interesting place to start from if you were going to do a production of it. I found it. It's funny. I found the third play. I know nothing about this cycle, and I've never come across it before. But I found the third play. It seemed to have a different vibe to the first two. The first two, I was really intrigued because they're my thing. I was really intrigued by all the fairy tale echoes. I mean, there's the cherry tree, obviously. There was also a weird little reference in the first play to the child made of snow, which is immediately reminded me of the Snow Maiden, which is a Russian fairy tale, and I'm like, where did that just suddenly come zooming in from? They seem, I mean, I know in the Nativity, it's all very miraculous, so there is that fairy tale aspect to it, but it seemed to have a weird fairy tale like quality, those first two plays, and yet at the same time they also had quite a lot of realism in them, which I found like a really interesting combination. The third one seemed more straightforward and more like more of a traditional nativity, although I like you, I did really love the fact that the shepherds were arguing over the tune of the song. I thought that was great. So yeah, I think there's stuff to be explored in this, and I enjoyed reading it.
Yeah, there is this. I think the whole thing about what was sung and who's singing what is business that is mirrored elsewhere. I think in that sense it is, the Shepherd's Play feels like the most traditional, the most part of a wider tradition. I think the thing always to remember is that this is a fake cycle. Now, these plays may be part of an original cycle because they match the opening bands of the text, whereas some of the other plays definitely don't. The stuff that happens within them do not match. That does not automatically mean that this play or these three plays come from the same source at all. They could all be collected together and have been editorially adjusted to work in some various way or fashion. We have evidence in certain places of where editorial decisions have been made, where some plays have been cut and chunked together. It's less so here. So, these plays, some of these plays may be longer, they may be short. There is this question of what's happened to them. But in the sense that the idea of a mystery play cycle is what this text is. Someone says the idea of doing all these plays in a thing, either a unit of time or within a volume, is what this text is celebrating. So, in my mind, we've been thinking about this as a book that you do, that you've got here, and that it sort of explodes out there, and that's sort of been where I've been thinking about what we might do with it as an artifact from a time that a company then quite literally pick up and carry, and rip pages out, and that sort of a routine, because that sort of historicizes, the moment of the book, and then allows us to play around with what the plays are saying. I have other thoughts about what we might do about some individual plays, but we've got Lynn left for final thoughts.
The third play in this little group of three being a bit of an outlier was one of the observations I was going to make. It does have a different vibe to it, partly for formal reasons, because it the rhyme, the verse feels different. It uses alliterative verse as opposed to just rhyme, the shorter line lengths, the sort of lighter comic feel. Well, I think the song said this. Well, I think the song said that. No, you guys are both wrong. It said glory. And it just has a sort of more optimistic, it just has a lighter feel to it. They characterize Mary as a flower and a pearl and a primrose and a bloom. So its view of her is very different, I feel like, than the first two, where the text seems obsessed with purity and like, ooh, women are so gross and they're so nasty, and and the prurience of the two detractors, and it's like, hey, she's a hottie, how can he resist? Bless you if you are interested in producing these in a way that make them available for the wider public, but like that attitude toward women and that obsession with cleanliness and virginity, it makes me so tired. I'm so done with it. I don't even want to deal.
Yeah. I mean, going on those plays, I mean, what I find really interesting here is that all the characters are really quite well rounded apart from Mary. And that I was saying that there's a play to be produced whereby what she's saying outwardly is almost a mask, and that we actually write additional dialogue for what's actually going, the teenage girl within this world.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, there will be people out there who will be producing cycles, maybe based on this cycle or maybe based on other cycles, that will be doing in a fairly straightforward way much of this text. Maybe not, probably not these plays, actually, apart from the Shepherds, might do the Nativity. But I definitely see that there is a production that could be based on the specifically Mary plays, the Mary plays that are doing something and saying something about the patriarchy and social structures and what's happening to Mary, but that we actually have the religious Mary and then we have the Mary underneath the mask. And that's sort of where my head was going through play 14. Definitely play 15. There's a question of almost actually as a basis for a social commentary play, a satire or something. It's not necessarily something I personally would be producing, but it is something that I think could be done with this material, because I think it would make a very valid comment. It's just a question of who and why and what context. Alan?
I have a feeling, because I did do some looking into the Apocrypha and came across things like Pseudo James, Pseudo Matthew. There is certainly within the Apocrypha the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I have a funny feeling that there is also an apocryphal work on Mary, Mother of God, which I don't think has carried through into any of the plays that we've yet done, but might be worth looking at just to see whether that throws any additional light.
Well, I mean, it would be lovely. I mean, the only real problem with looking at all the sources is there's just so much of it, and that's sort of the problem. There are so many various, and I think it's slightly outside our bounds. I mean, if someone out there wants to be doing that and wants to be, give us a call, send us a message. Looking into the where these materials are coming from, what they're talking about is useful, but it is a question of how much time we're willing to. Us as a group to put into this kind of action is limited, especially as to a degree this isn't our direct wheelhouse in terms of what we're doing with the productions that we're working on. Sarah?
In terms of writing extra stuff and creating our own Apocrypha, I want to see the play where Salome and Zelomy then go to the tavern and tell everybody what's happened, because they are such great characters, and I'm like, I want to see that scene. I think that would be hilarious.
Drink after that?
Yeah, exactly.
So weird.
Yeah.
Make it 2 pints, bartender.
Yeah.
Of the finest gin.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I mean it's quite traumatic an experience. I mean there is that yeah, it's very odd story. Any additional final thoughts? I think I've gone around the room once. Did anyone have anything extra they're burning to share? No, I think we're all moderately traumatized now. Don't worry, we have more sessions to come on this sequence, at least in the short term. We have yet to go from this traumatic series of events to something much more happy and cheerful, the slaughter of the innocents. So that's nothing cheers the room up than babies being slaughtered. And on that cheerful note, thanks to all the readers here, and goodbye. Merry Christmas.
Bye.